Hey, sorry about that. For whatever reason, I guess Facebook servers are having issues today. I've noticed that it's disconnected a couple of times during this call, so I just went ahead and started a new one when it kicked me off. I'm going to basically resume where we were at.
Right.
Is that true?
Yeah. What did you say to her then? You made her a promise. When I helped her get on the gurney, I made her a promise that I would find out who did this.
She asked you for that?
Right. Yeah.
She said...
Because she didn't think she was going to make it.
Really?
I didn't.
What did she say to you that you promised her that? What did she say? Do you remember her words?
She said, I want you to promise me that you find out who did this and take care of it.
And again, I don't think that that's an unreasonable thing to say or think. I know for a fact if I was in that situation, even if it was a niece or a nephew, I'd absolutely be concerned about making sure that whoever did it was caught. So now, at this point, here's what's happening. We've got Officer Waddell has just appeared on the scene. He's told Darlie to lay down, okay, just sit down. He was noticing her slit throat. Darren was noticing her slit throat. That's why you hear Darren say, look for a rag. They've been using wet rags on the boys. So, same principle applies here. He was saying, look for a rag so that they could put it against Darlie's throat. So she obviously was not just standing around with a rag to her throat, not concerned about her babies, or Darren nor Waddell would have made that statement. Also important to note going forward with this, remember that the 911 dispatcher does not realize that Waddell is even there on the scene. He was not called and dispatched to go to that scene. There was another officer that was supposed to be going. Waddell was just incredibly close by. I think they said he was 1.9 miles away, something like that. And so he showed up on the scene, and that was a complete and utter surprise to the dispatch, who did not seem to realize that he was there, even through the complete ending of this call. And that's when things get a little bit chaotic. But here we go. Darlie's talking to Waddell, and many times throughout the dispatch is assuming she's talking to her.
They left the knife. There's a knife. Don't touch anything. I already touched it. Picked it up.
And that was the first time that was said. It's there again. She was talking to Waddell. She was showing him, look, the knife was laying over there. And dispatch assumed she was talking to her. And so she tells her, there's a knife, don't touch anything. She says, I already touched it and picked it up. And then 911 says, who's out there? Is anybody out there? And I guess she's on the radio, and Darlie thinks she's talking to her. I don't know. And then she starts talking to her about a police officer being at the front door, and she needs to let the police officer in. There was already a police officer in there, though, and they didn't even realize that.
Who's out there? Is anybody out there? I don't know. Okay, ma'am, listen. There's a police officer at your front door. Is your front door unlocked? Yes, ma'am. Where's the ambulance? I'm barely breathing. If I don't get in here, they're going to be dead. My God, they're dead. Hurry.
And again, all she's worried about is, when are they going to get here? Hurry, please hurry. I mean, she just got done telling her, there's an officer at your front door, let the officer in. But, police officer wasn't what Darlie was concerned about. She was concerned about saving her baby's lives. And, again, it's, yes, ma'am, but where's the ambulance? My God, they're taking forever. They're barely breathing. If they don't get here, they're going to be dead. Please hurry, please hurry. If she had just attacked both of those little boys, why on earth would she be begging and pleading for the ambulance to get there and possibly save Damon's life, who could have then said, hey, it was mommy who stabbed me? That makes no sense whatsoever. Furthermore, why would Damon have even been comfortable with her treating him and holding him and comforting him if he was the one that had hurt her? I mean, he was able to move around initially. He was stabbed in the back, and his lungs would have been, it's my hand shaking, I'm sorry, his lungs would have been filling up with blood, in a nutshell. I know that sounds terrible, and it is terrible. But he was able to move around initially. He went to his mom, he woke her up. He even followed behind her initially as she started approaching the kitchen. And, she told him, no, wait here. And then, of course, as time went on, it got harder and harder for him to communicate. But if she had hurt him, you would think that there would be some sign of him trying to grapple onto his daddy or crawling over to his daddy or something. But there isn't any of that. He's completely okay with his mom taking care of him. And to me, it sounds like you can hear her absolutely pleading for them to hurry up and get here and save their lives. If she had attacked them, why would she want their lives saved to begin with? I mean, she could have waited a little bit longer to make the phone call and make sure Damon was dead or gonna die. It makes no sense.
Please, okay, there's 82 out on Eagle. Huh? Oh my God, hurry. 82, you out. Oh my God. Oh my God, why would they do this? What do you say? Why would they do this? Okay, listen, ma'am. You need to let the officers in the front door, okay? What? Ma'am? What? You need to let the police officers in the front door. This knife was laying over there, and I already picked it up. Okay, it's all right. It's okay.
And again, she was talking to the police officer. She was not talking to the dispatch about the knife. She was talking to the police officer. And if you look as we go on here, that's another thing. She never said anything about her prints being on the knife. It was her knife. I would think that her prints probably would be on it. What she was concerned about was that she might have messed up fingerprints that an intruder would have left. Why people make such a big deal out about this is beyond me. I mean, we have a fingerprint that was left on the scene in a combination of the victim's blood, so we have the intruder's fingerprint, at least one of the intruder's fingerprint. If they'd put it in APHIS, maybe we could get a match, or at least in the future save somebody else's lives. But anyway.
Part of the criticism and part of what was used at trial against your wife was the 911 call.
Right.
The investigators said that she was unduly concerned with prints on the knife. She said to the operator, the dispatcher, that the intruder came in, that he had dropped a knife, and the dispatcher said, "Don't pick it up," and she said, "I already did."
Well, sure. That's what I would say if somebody said, "Don't pick it up." She asked her a question and she was responding.
Okay. Take that in the purse, baby. Ma'am, hang on a second. Somebody walked in here and did it, Karen. There's nothing. Okay, ma'am. There's nothing.
And again, you know, with all this talk about her staging a crime scene, even Darlie is saying there's nothing touched. There's nothing touched. You know, why would they do this? Why would they do this? I mean, anyway.
Ma'am, is the police officer there? Okay, go talk to him, okay? Yes, that's okay. Go talk to him, babe. Okay?
And I saw blood everywhere. I mean, you look at the crime scene photos and you know, in evidence, the carpet is blood red from one end to the house to the other, and mostly all of Darlie's. I mean, Darlie almost bled to death.
Probably 30 or 40 people around, and there were lights and stuff on the house, and the yellow tape was going up, and there were police officers running in and out of the house.
Contaminating everything, all the evidence on the floor, adding footprints to it, smashing blood spots on the floor.
And all of that was very true. I've heard that from numerous sources. You know, they just were not accustomed to that kind of crime. And when you have that many people coming in and out and trampling all over a crime scene, you know, I mean, you know, after that, for James Caan and people like that to actually look at the blood droplets on the floor and try to make some sort of conclusion off of those, when we know for a fact that there were people walking through the house trampling all over them, is pretty negligent. And I think, you know, most of this is just a summary. I can read it out loud. Devin was pronounced dead on the scene. Damon died while being transported. Darlie Lynn was rushed to emergency surgery, removed a necklace that was embedded in her neck wound, stopped the bleeding and closed her own wounds. She was then sent to ICU for observation, and they did begin questioning her immediately after that, which is also a little bit strange. I mean, I know that they'd want to get information as soon as possible. That does make sense, of course, but you know, I've had surgery. I think a lot of us out there have, and I can't imagine trying to give a coherent statement when I've just woken up from general anesthesia. When we go on, and I'm just updating that she was subsequently tried and convicted in the capital murder of the younger son, Damon. As of the date of the video, she's still on death row proclaiming her innocence. They all still believe that she's innocent, and that's including her now ex, side of the family. Cyrilda, Darren, they all support her still to this day, and Drake does as well. Drake is 20 years old now. He gave his first interview on the CNN Death Row Stories. If anyone hasn't seen that yet, that's a very great show. And we're just saying here that they cooperated fully with the police because they were naive and they believed that the police were on their side. They had no way of knowing that a fingerprint expert who was called to the scene as a crime scene expert, because Rowlett PD wasn't accustomed to that type of violence, had already concluded after a brief cursory 20-minute walk through the scene that there was no intruder and that Darlie Lynn had murdered her children and inflicted the wounds on herself. And that is absolutely absurd. How do you walk on into a scene, look at it for 15-20 minutes, and then all of a sudden make your conclusion? I mean, they never even bothered to investigate any other avenues. It was just Darlie did it from the very beginning, and then they tried to build their case around that. And that's exactly what happened. And those are just some of the photos of Darlie from the hospital. And that's a good question, Rhonda. I don't know. You'd think that dispatch would have caught on to that there was a police officer there and she could have already hung up the phone, but she'd never dealt with a 911 call before, obviously, so she was trying to go with what the dispatch was telling her. And I know when it got there, you heard her say, "Is the police officer at your front door?" "Yes." And she says, "Okay, now I hang up." "Okay," and then she hangs up. And this was just saying a little bit more. If you want to find information, you can go to some of these other sites. I think there's a little slide coming up here on Drake. Yeah, and his leukemia. Just as an update, Drake is doing really well. That's pretty much all to this video other than just some links and stuff. But Drake's doing really well now. I actually think that he'll be done with his chemotherapy maintenance in another few months. I don't know the exact number he has left. Maybe 3 or 4, maybe 5 tops. But he's been getting chemotherapy, what they're calling maintenance, once a month. After the first year, he was getting this once a month for 2 full years before he could actually be considered cancer-free. But he is doing really, really well, thankfully. Thank God. As you can imagine, that was just a horrible thing for the family to find out about. And I've got another short video dealing with Officer Waddell and the issues with him and some of the things he's lied about and said and whatnot. I think it's only about a 3-minute video, and I'll put that just in the links down here on both of these live videos, and y'all can listen to that one for yourself and draw your own conclusions from it. But I think that Waddell is a huge part of why this case went so wrong and why it was handled so badly and things were covered up. And that video will explain why in great detail. But I'm going to go ahead and finish this up. I'll try to answer further questions that pop up as they come along. Yeah, that's just intense. I don't know. If you put yourself in either one of those parents' shoes, I can't imagine what on earth they wanted them to do that they did not do or that they didn't think they did properly. I mean, both parents were frantically working on the kids the entire time. And if you try to count how many times Darlie was asking for help during that call, it's somewhere up around 19, 20, and it was only a 5-minute call. So it's pretty absurd. And, when you listen to the entire phone call in context, the comments about finding out who did it and maybe messing up prints on a knife are not near as big of a thing as they're making it out to be. I think that's a perfectly normal thing to say. It's exactly what I would think in this situation. But anyway, I'm sorry for being emotional throughout this. I hate listening to this phone call. I spent a solid week working on this transcription, trying to get things accurate and make sure everything was accurate, and I hadn't listened to it again until this morning when I listened to it one time before I got ready to do this video. So yeah, putting yourself in those family's shoes, just try to imagine if that was your own kids. What would you do? How would you act? I mean, I think she acted like a normal grieving mom. All of those snippets where the family's talking, those are all videos on the YouTube channel for Darlie. One of them was the Lisa Gibbons show, and that was really early on, maybe 1997, 98, 99, somewhere around in there. They actually did 3 different shows. So it's old, it's out of date, but if you want to see them, go check out the YouTube channel. It's called Free Darlie Routier, and it's full of all these videos that I took these excerpts from. The only ones that aren't on there are due to copyright issues, and it's CNN Death Row Stories and the Unsolved Mysteries, and then just Drake's little interview. Those are on dailymotion.com, and I'll try to put those links here in the comments too. But I'll welcome any of your thoughts and questions and see what y'all think. But when I listen to this call, I hear parents that are in shock, freaking out and grieving and pleading desperately for help. That's what I hear. What do you hear? Thanks a lot, guys.